Imagine waking up to a headline that one of the busiest shipping corridors on the planet just vanished beneath a wall of water. No warning, no second chances, just an empty space where bustling ports and vital sea lanes once stood. That nightmare isn't some far-fetched Hollywood fiction. It's the quiet, unsettling consensus among a dedicated group of geologists who tirelessly watch a 1,500-kilometer scar called the Manila Trench. And yesterday, they noticed something that made them stop billing hours and start double-checking wills. What did they see? A subtle, yet profound, shift in the Earth itself, hinting at a geological debt long overdue. This isn't just any old crack in the ocean floor. The Manila Trench is a colossal geological feature, a silent giant that hugs the west coast of Luzon, curves past Mindoro, and eventually fades somewhere south of Taiwan. Technically, it's a megathrust fault, a place where the Eurasian plate is inexorably sliding underneath the Philippine sea plate. Think about it. This massive, slow-motion collision is happening at roughly the speed your fingernail grows. Yet it involves forces capable of reshaping continents. Because this boundary isn't one smooth, continuous surface, it's segmented, meaning each section can stay locked for centuries, stubbornly refusing to budge. This locking action causes it to store immense amounts of energy, like a bow drawn back to its absolute limit, waiting for the precise moment to release. Historical records, which only go back to the 1500s, show nothing larger than a 7.6 magnitude earthquake has originated from this specific trench since then. That's a staggering amount of time for stress to accumulate, leading scientists to believe that the bow is now severely overdrawn and the string is starting to creak under unimaginable pressure. GPS stations dotted across Luzon confirm this terrifying reality. The plates are squeezing together at almost 4 centimeters a year, yet the fault surface beneath the sea isn't slipping. That missing motion, that unreleased energy, is building a seismic debt, one that will eventually be paid only in powerful seismic waves. Last month, something truly unsettling happened. An array of ocean-bottom seismometers, those incredibly sensitive scientific ears listening to the Earth's whispers, picked up a tremor. But this wasn't just any tremor. It lasted an astonishing 42 minutes. Now the amplitude was tiny, so small in fact that people in Manila felt absolutely nothing. You wouldn't have spilled your coffee. However, the frequency pattern was eerily identical to the slow slip events that preceded Japan's devastating 2011 Tohoku quake. In plain words, a 200-kilometer section of the fault, a segment the size of a small country, crept a few centimeters without triggering the usual violent jolt we associate with earthquakes. These slow slips are a scientific enigma. They can either act as a pressure release valve, bleeding off stress harmlessly, or they can be the final, ominous nudge before a catastrophic rupture. The catch, and it's a big one, is that we simply don't know which until the big one either happens or, thankfully, doesn't. Within hours, this critical data traveled from the lonely trench, across the Pacific to the University of Tokyo, then swiftly to Five Oaks, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. From there, it pinged phones at 2 a.m. with the same chilling message. This looks familiar, and familiar here is terrifying. It's the kind of message that makes even the most seasoned scientists lose sleep. Now let's talk about the worst-case scenario, the one that keeps experts like Dr. Kenji Satake up at night. He literally wrote the textbook on tsunamis. So when he warns that if the entire Manila Trench unzipped, we're talking about a magnitude 8.8 to 9.3 earthquake, it's time to listen. Can you even picture that? Metro Manila, a sprawling metropolis of millions, rocking violently for 3 excruciating minutes. Skyscrapers swaying like drunk giraffes, their foundations groaning under unimaginable stress. The damage wouldn't stop there. Coastal towns from La Union all the way down to Batangas would face run-up heights topping 5 meters, with some models projecting catastrophic waves of up to 9 meters. The death toll estimate? It sits squarely in the tens of thousands, and that's with functioning sirens and well-executed evacuations. Knock out power and water, add the inevitable post-quake fires from ruptured gas lines, and that number climbs terrifyingly fast. But the impact wouldn't be confined to the Philippines. This isn't just a regional problem. It's a global catastrophe waiting to happen. Major international ports, Manila, Hong Kong, Kaohsiung in Taiwan, and several critical hubs in Vietnam and China, could close for months. We're talking about a significant portion of the world's shipping infrastructure grinding to a halt. Think about what that means. Supply chains that feed everything from your phone battery to the wheat in your breakfast cereal would be choked. The disruption to the global port network could easily exceed anything seen in previous major tsunamis, given the sheer concentration of busy ports and sea lanes in the South China Sea region. One modeling group, making what they considered a conservative estimate, put the worldwide economic hit at a staggering $290 billion. That's a sum that would ripple through every economy, every household on the planet. On the other side of the scientific debate, we have Camp Calm, primarily represented by 5volks, the agency tasked with keeping 110 million people sane and informed. They counter that while the threat is real, the trench has many independent segments, making a single, blockbuster rupture of the entire 1,500-kilometer length highly unlikely. Their worst credible scenario peaks at a magnitude 8.3. Still nasty, absolutely devastating, but thankfully short of an apocalyptic Armageddon. Slow slip events, they argue, occur all the time around the world without cascading into megaquakes. They point to the Cascadia margin off the Pacific Northwest of North America, where similar tremors have pulsed for decades. Yet the region still stands, awaiting its own overdue seismic reckoning. Social media rumors of overdue quakes, while understandable, ignore a fundamental truth. Faults don't read calendars. Stress accumulates, yes, that's undeniable. But predicting the exact day or year remains, and likely always will remain, impossible. So, their message is clear and pragmatic. Prepare, absolutely. Panic, definitely not. It's a delicate balance between awareness and avoiding mass hysteria. Preparation now hinges on knowing more, on understanding the Earth's subtle language before that seismic debt comes due. This isn't just about waiting, it's about actively listening. That's why the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and the Philippine government have just undertaken a monumental task, lowering a kilometer-long cable bristling with advanced sensors deep into the trench's central section. Every hour, this technological marvel beams back vital temperature, pressure, and acceleration data to a buoy on the surface, which then bounces it to a satellite. Think of it as fitting a Fitbit onto a dragon's heart, listening intently for any irregular beat, any subtle change that might signal an impending event. Back on land, the preparations are equally intense and incredibly practical. Engineers are retrofitting schools with base isolators, ingenious devices that literally lift buildings off their foundations, allowing them to sway independently of the ground during an earthquake, dramatically reducing damage and saving lives. Meanwhile, disaster agencies are rehearsing, meticulously practicing for a critical 24-hour window to evacuate an astonishing 1.8 million people from Manila's low-lying barangays, those densely populated coastal communities most vulnerable to a tsunami. Tsunami maps are being redrawn, street by street, block by block, because in a jammed megacity, the difference between a 10-minute walk to safety and a 20-minute trudge through chaos can literally mean the difference between survival and tragedy. Every second counts, and every detail matters. Even if you've never Googled Philippines vacation, your life, in ways you might not even realize, still intersects with the Manila Trench. It's a stark reality. 40% of global shipping containers pass through the South China Sea. Let that sink in. A trench-triggered tsunami wouldn't just slam local ports. It would devastate a network of international harbors that handle everything from the semiconductors in your phone to the palm oil in your food. The ripple effects would be immediate and far-reaching, impacting petrol prices, slowing down car assembly lines, and even driving up the cost of sushi rice in LA. And here's another layer of complexity. Sea level rise. By 2100, the same wave that hits today would inundate 36% more infrastructure, pushing recovery times for some harbors past 6 months. This compounds the risk, making future events even more destructive and recovery even more protracted. It's a double whammy of geological and climatic threats. This isn't lost on the financial world either. Catastrophe bonds linked to Philippine seismic risk now trade at a premium. A clear sign that investors have finally read the fine print. They understand that the country sits on a fault line capable of rewriting quarterly earnings on 3 continents, profoundly impacting global stability and prosperity. The Manila Trench isn't just a geological feature. It's a critical choke point for the global economy. If you want more updates on slow slip science, disaster preparedness hacks, and insights into the planet's most powerful forces, hit subscribe and ring the bell so the algorithm knows you like reality checks that bite. So, what happens tomorrow? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe the trench keeps whispering, its geological conversations continuing quietly for another 100 years. Or maybe, next week, that whisper becomes a deafening roar. Either way, that strange 42-minute signal is a stark reminder that beneath every postcard-perfect shoreline, beneath every tranquil ocean, there's a ledger of geological IOUs, and Earth, without fail, always collects. Scientists aren't fortune tellers, they're bookkeepers. Their terrifying warning isn't some apocalyptic prophecy. It's a receipt. It's an invoice from the planet itself, detailing the accumulating stress and the potential consequences. The fundamental question is whether we choose to read it now, heed its warnings, and prepare, or wait until later, when the tide is out and the sirens are screaming their desperate final call. The choice, ultimately, is ours. Until deep-sea probes map every single locked patch of that 1,500-kilometer trench. Until cities finish their drills, and every coastal community has a robust evacuation plan. The Manila Trench stays in the same category as asteroids and solar flares. Low probability on any given day, but existentially catastrophic when that probability finally hits one. It's a threat that demands respect and proactive preparation, not paralyzing fear. So, keep your go bag packed, your evacuation route printed and memorized. And perhaps next time you sip coffee from a mug that says, "Keep calm and carry on," remember this. The trench doesn't do calm. It does pressure. It does patience. And sooner or later, it does payment due.